back. CFCDP here, and it took a performance like this one to pull me back into the YouTube space because that was horrible. Just horrible. Chelsea lose 1-0 to Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup semifinals in the first leg. And man, what a struggle bus that was to watch. It's hard to watch now. Now I have been watching. I always watch. I always care. I always follow. If you follow me on Twitter at CFCDP1, you'll see me there. You'll see me talking about the games and whatnot, giving my opinions. But to get me onto the YouTube and bring me back for, the foreseeable future, this was bad. So let's get into it a little bit because now we're here again. It's Poch in, Poch out. It was Potter in, Potter out, Tuchel in, Tuchel out, and we find ourselves back at this same stage again. And for a long time and up until this point, I've been understanding of Pochettino and what he wants to do, what the process is going to be, what the project is like. We can't expect to finish top 4. We can't. That was never my expectation from the beginning of this year. My expectation was, let's see if some of these young guys are going to be a part of this team when it's good. Now, the money would suggest that they have to be. But to me, when I look at this squad, it is a team that is not ready to perform week in and week out. They perform to the level of their competition every single game. There is not one game this season where Chelsea has said, we're going to be on the front foot. We're going to take it to you. We're going to play Chelsea football. You're just going to have to play how we play. It doesn't happen. Mind you, okay, they did that against Preston North End or Luton or whatever. But more times than not, this team does not set the tone of a game. And setting the tone does not mean possession. That's not what I mean, because we do possess the ball a lot. We kick it around a lot, but we don't make anything happen. And that's the problem with me. That's the problem I have, is that everybody is standing. They're moving their hands. They're saying to do this, do that, but nobody's forcing the issue. And when it gets down to my Pochettino thoughts, I think Pochettino, from the beginning, was a point A to point B manager, a stepping stone manager to get this team in a position where they can bring in the real manager that's going to win trophies. And I still believe that to this day. Sacking him does no good for anybody. It creates more chaos, more confusion, and we're not at a point where we're ready to hire that manager that's going to take us to the next step yet. So that's where I am on Poch. But at the same time, when you look at Poch, he is not doing the point A to point B stuff that we're asking him to do. And that's a problem for me. There's no baseline being set in. There's fundamental mistakes. You're playing on a style that everybody knows how to beat you. Sit in a low block, soak up the pressure, hope that you don't draw a penalty, hope that you don't, mistake yourself into a goal, because very few times this year has Chelsea benefited from really intricate passages of play, controlling the ball, finding spaces, getting on the front end. Very, very rarely. I'm not going to say it hasn't happened, but very rarely has that happened so far this year. So my issue is with that, because at a very baseline, for the next manager that's going to come in 2 years down the road when it's winning time, they're going to have to expect that stuff is there, and you're not going to attract that type of manager unless you have those baseline things in, which is why Pochettino was brought in. You win a trophy, you get top 4, while Poch is here, that's gravy. But, it doesn't take much to understand what this assignment was at the time. Great track record with young players. Never could really win the big game, but did a really good job of building a culture and setting a floor. So if he's doing that, if that's his expectations at the bare minimum, which I think should be his expectations, albeit this is Chelsea Football Club, we need to strive to win trophies, but it's not going to be what it was under Roman, unfortunately, under this ownership. And we just have to take that. And we can be unhappy about it, and we can want it to change, and we can want, that ruthlessness to come back. But the ownership isn't changing, so this is how it's going to be. So we have to figure out a way to get what we have into this ownership's and this sporting team's ideas. So how do we do that from here? We, like I said, play to the opponent's level every time. You have a performance like Man City, 4-4, you're fighting back, you're playing well, excellent. Then you have this performance, not so great, but that's just how the game is dictated by the opponents. So what my plea is to Pochettino is find a way where you can dictate the game. And to me, the only way that's going to happen based off of what we're looking at from how teams are going to play us from now and this past season and in the future is they're going to, until you can prove that you can break down a low block, that's what it's going to be. That's just it. At its root, that's it. So you need to figure out how to do that. Pochettino's comments after the match today, suggesting that obviously the injury list is horrible. This is a lot of his ideas, quote unquote, are built around certain players, and Nkunku, Carney, hopefully some left back, right back, bombing up the field, interchanges on the side. But you at a certain level, you can't. When you face Middlesbrough, that shouldn't matter. You still have however many millions of dollars worth of players on the field, and whether those players are worth that price, has remained to be seen. But you need results. It's just a results-based business, even with the caveat of we need you to get from point A to point B, and we don't expect you to necessarily win anything. We expect you to be very competitive, and until we get the guy that is going to be very competitive. So how do you break down a low block? Are you that reliant on Nkunku? Yeah, he's fantastic. He is the best player on this team. But if that's your reliance on this, come on, man. You want to be, and if I'm Pochettino, I'm like, no, I don't want to be point A to point B manager. I want to be the one that wins finally and pushes this team over the top. But you can't do that if you're saying, oh, I need the perfect squad. He's not a manager that you're going to do more with less with. You need to do, he needs a lot to do that. And I think you can argue that maybe he has been successful thus far in providing a baseline and assimilating these players to the Premier League in developing a culture. I haven't heard a player say anything bad about Pochettino to this point. With Madueke, it seemed like that thing got resolved and Madueke understood what was going on. But you know what? Management can only take you so far in these certain circumstances. And I think that Poch needs to either bring some consultancies in to help with his tactics or something, because we just can't do that. And Cole Palmer should have had a hat trick in the first half. But look at how those goals are formulated. One of those three was formulated by a good chance, and other two were formulated by Middlesbrough mistakes. And if that's part of your tactics is pressure them into make mistakes, and albeit that's totally cool. But I'm looking for a little bit of directness from these players. And I think it starts with Poch. And I don't think the players are fully admissible for any criticism at this point. I think they deserve it as well, because mental mistakes are the only way that we give up goals. Look at all the goals so far this year. It's mental mistakes. So I question a little bit of the mentality of this group. They're a young, impressionable group, and bad habits can become bad habits very quickly. And then you fall into that realm of what it is. So it really takes a top man manager to make sure that does not become habitual. But on the other hand, the manager needs to limit those opportunities where one long ball over the top and one mistake is detrimental to this team. And then it's like, all right, they're just going to set up shop and we can't do anything about it, because that's the game plan against us. So I don't know. I think it's time. I think it needs time. I think they need time. I think we're at a stage where, we're 3 points off of 8th place right now. So you win next week and a couple results go your way. I think Newcastle plays City and Spurs play Man United, and those results, if we beat Fulham, push us right up to 8th. So I mean, we're not so far off on the table where I'm like, Europe is not achievable, and I would take any form of Europe this year, despite what other people say about, man, we need to uphold and aim for Europa League, which I think is got to be the aim, but in terms of getting there and achieving it, we need more games. We need more games. We need more high-pressure moments for these players because that is going to be the things that take them to the next step. More games. And with a big squad, you need as many games as you can to fulfill those minutes that people need. And then, overall, when you start talking about buying and selling players and selling and flipping some guys for profit, those Europa Conference League games, those Europa League games are going to be crucial to get film out to people about, hey, how good is Datro Fofana? Can we? Yeah, you know what? A team could say, wow, he scored 6 goals in the Conference League. He could definitely come and help us. Well, we'll buy him for $25 million, and there's $10 million profit. I'm not saying we want to be a buying and selling club, but it's clearly a part of the operation at this point that flipping players and sort of funding bigger moves by flipping players along the way outside of your core players is going to be crucial. So, I want to thank you all for coming back and listening to me vent and rant a little bit. We hope to get out some more content here moving forward. Hope you guys are excited to see me too. But yeah, it's been fantastic to be back. Hopefully we can get a win against Fulham. Then I think it's 10 days off until the second leg. So Carney might be back and Kunku might be back. Chilwell might be back. We might have a completely different squad that's ready to go and can maybe, limit some of Poch's woe is me tactics in his press conferences, because that I don't stand for. So if you don't already, please subscribe. Helps me a lot. Helps me continue to be motivated to keep going on this stuff. And follow me on Twitter at CFCDP1. Poch players, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who's the problem? What's the problem? Probably a collection of both. But anyways, thank you very much. Have a good night.